Good evening and welcome to episode 9 of Sideline Sports Podcast. We have a special one for you guys tonight. This is the NBA 2019 season special. I am your host, Alexnavejasports, and with me tonight is the NBA analyst, Austin Duarte. But before we get to business, I just want to say episode 9 of Sideline Sports Podcast is sponsored by Lean Mean Meals, where you guys could get your meal prep, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner made for you. They also have detox juices, their cold brew coffee, and you know what, Austin? They also have pumpkin spice. You know, pumpkin season is upon us, October and November. What's October and November without this pumpkin spice, you know?
It's pumpkin season right now, just like you said. Like, Thanksgiving coming around in a little over a month. You can't go wrong with pumpkin.
So there you go. How can you guys get it? I'm going to put the website down below into the description. Make sure to use my promo code SIDELINE10 so that way you guys can get 10% off on your meal prep, detox juices, cold brew coffee, whatever it may be. So without further ado, let's get started, right, Austin? Because we got ourselves a wild season coming up. But before we get into that Western Conference action, I know you guys want to hear Lakers and Clippers, but let's knock out the business and the elephant in the room. But let's talk about that Eastern Conference, and to be more specific, let's talk about those Toronto Raptors. We can definitely expect them to not 2-peat, especially with losing their prized possession in Kawhi Leonard. What can we be expecting from the Raptors?
Well, just like you said, they're not going to 2-peat. If you look at all these championship teams, if you don't have a superstar, you can't 2-peat. And Kyle Lowry, he's a star, but he's not a superstar status. Like, he doesn't have that Kawhi Leonard status, doesn't have that Giannis status, LeBron status. He's not one of those top dogs like that, unfortunately, for Kyle Lowry. And he does disappear in the playoffs sometimes. He's been hounded for that by the press. He did show up for that one game in the finals where he started out on fire, but other than that, you have Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, his most improved player from last year. He had a great postseason. He showed how, he is deserving of that most improved player. But if you don't have a superstar, you're not going to win a ring. So expect him to probably still be in the playoffs for sure. Maybe a fifth, maybe even high as a fourth, maybe at best if they have a good season, if Siakam really emerges as an all-star. But other than that, yeah, they're most definitely not going to 2-peat. You do have the probably coming out the East for me would be Milwaukee. Giannis is just on an absolute tear. He's shown that he's top 5 in the league for sure, along with up there with Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James. It's a highly debated thing. You play Anthony Davis, James Harden for some people, but Giannis is definitely one of the most unstoppable players we have right now. Once he gets down the lane, does his little Euro step, it's just, you can't stop him. He's just too big.
So, you're already getting ahead of the game right here, yeah. Austin. That Eastern Conference, we can already say, there are going to be some powerhouse teams. I mean, I'm still saying Celtics can still be in the mix. There's 76ers. I still think the 76ers were one play away from being in the NBA Finals right there. Yeah. It was just a clutch shot by Mr. Kawhi Leonard coming up huge for the Raptors. When I saw that, I was just like, wow. Like, this was my reaction, legit. Like, I had my hands on my face, like, wow, so mind blown. But at the same time, I shouldn't be so surprised because Kawhi is Kawhi, and that's what he can do. And I believe he really showed the world what he's capable of. But this Eastern Conference final, or the Eastern Conference, who are going to be some of these powerhouses in that conference? Who are going to be some teams to look out for?
So other than Milwaukee, as I already mentioned, you do have the 76ers, like you said. 76ers, of course, has Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons, once he gets in the paint, he's one of the most unstoppable players in the league, too. And he's, only in his first, 4 years in the league. And if he develops the outside shot, as we saw him drain the three in the preseason right now, I'm not totally buying the outside shot. You've seen videos of him posted from the summertime of he's making these threes, in rec games or whatever. And he did make that one preseason three. If he can knock down that three-pointer, they're going to be a really deadly team. Of course, Joel Embiid, one of the top centers in the league, if not the top center in the league. They're going to be probably right behind Giannis and the Bucks in my eyes. Other than them, like you said, the Celtics, they just added Kemba Walker in replacement of Kyrie. So if you look at the stats, Kemba was right there with Kyrie. In certain aspects, Kemba was better than Kyrie statistically. So Celtics fans would hop on that and say, oh, we had an improvement. So they're definitely going to be in the mix with young guys like Jason Tatum still and Jaylen Brown. We'll see what they can do. Jason Tatum's numbers from last year and the year prior, they did nothing but improve. So even though people have criticized him for not having as an active season as he did the year prior, his numbers went up. So if he can consistently keep those numbers going up, the Celtics are going to be a dangerous team along with the Bucks, the 76ers. Of course, you have the Nets, going to be led by Kyrie Irving. They're gonna. They don't have KD, but of course Kyrie Irving's on the team. That's a playoff bound team. We saw what D'Lo did last year. D'Lo, of course, had one of the more impressive seasons last year, taking them to the playoffs. And if you look at from D'Lo and Kyrie, Kyrie's an improvement in my eyes and should be in everyone's eyes from D'Angelo Russell. So I expect them to be a playoff team as well. And if they get to the playoffs, I don't think Kevin Durant will be rushed at all, considering he just came off the Achilles injury, and we saw the whole controversy last year with the Warriors. They kind of rushed him back into getting healthy, and then of course he ruptured his Achilles. So he's gonna play it, play it safe and take the long route in the recovery process. But if he's back by postseason, that's a very, very deadly team. That's one of the best duos in the league. We'll get to some more impressive duos on the West Side in a bit. But yeah, of course you have the Nets. You talk about the powerhouses. If you want to get into, we could talk about the weak teams. Or what do you? Oh, also before we get to the weak teams, Indiana Pacers, as I told you before, they're going to be a sleeper team because last year Oladipo was balling out. Pacers were on a roll. They looked like they were going to be a really deadly team in the playoffs, and then a few weeks out from the playoffs, Oladipo goes down, and they get swept in the first round. So Oladipo is going to be on a vengeance tour this year. So expect the Pacers to do some damage along the Pistons as well. Blake Griffin had a career year last year. He really carried that team to the A spot. So expect them to do some big things. We'll see how Jimmy Butler does in a Miami Heat uniform.
That's interesting. That's the one team I would have never expected him to sign with.
Yep. So Jimmy Butler, he's going to look to prove a lot of haters wrong. Because he's one of the only dogs in there in Miami, so we'll see. He's always demonstrated himself to be the alpha dude in the locker room. The story of the Timberwolves going up against the taking the bench and beating the starters. So he's more than confident. He knows that he can take this team to the playoffs, and he thinks that he could take them deep in the playoffs too. But I'm not putting my chips. If I was a bettor, I would not put all my chips in the Miami Heat. But with deadly teams like the 76ers and the Bucks and all that. But expect them to be a playoff team as well. So those are probably your top dogs right there.
So a real quick question. Dwayne Wade, he's retired now. He's enjoying himself. He's already done making the big bucks. He's probably in Miami and the beach. Enjoying his view of the beach and all that. Do you really think Jimmy Butler can fill those shoes? Do you feel like he's going to be pressured this coming year? Or do you think he's going to fill that role properly?
Well, it depends on how you look at it, because if you talk about Dwayne Wade from last year, Jimmy Butler to me is definitely not going to fill the role of a prime Dwayne Wade. But if you look from this season to last season, will he fill the shoes of an aged Dwayne Wade? Absolutely. This is a dude in his prime. Coming off of a career season, he had some big plays last year for the Philadelphia 76ers, including in the playoffs as well. So if you want to say, is he going to replace what a aged Dwayne Wade brought to the Miami Heat? Yes. Will he be what Dwayne Wade was in his prime? Not necessarily, but I can definitely expect him to fulfill those expectations of leading the team to the playoffs spot.
Okay. Now, you talked about the powerhouses. I know you want to jump a little bit to the teams that are not exactly in the contending ways right now. What are you seeing right now with these uncontending teams?
Yeah, so in terms of getting that number one spot in the draft, which it won't be as sought out for as it was last season with Zion Williamson for sure going to be the top spot. Everyone was trying to get to that number one